You are about to listen to a Jason Burgos exclusive interview. So first question is, let's talk about the going back and do the Vellante fight in June. How would you grade your performance, and what do you feel you could have done different or better for it to have not ended up, being a close fight and, you getting a split decision instead of, say, a unanimous decision?
I don't know what I would grade it. It wasn't quite what I wanted. I won the fight, so that's wonderful. But I really wanted that finish again. And after I dropped him big in the first, I was just pretty confident I was going to be able to do it again in the second and third, but then keep him down. So I need more output. And it's always been a problem I've been fighting with, and it's getting better. But especially going to Brazil, for my next fight, fighting a Brazilian, I need my output to be far higher because I can't let it go to the decision.
And define, what do you mean by more output? Is it simply you need to start faster, you need to be more aggressive, or what is it you feel you have to change that you're not doing?
I think I have the lowest punch count in the UFC. And so I need that to not be the case anymore. I just don't throw much. When I do throw and it connects, people usually fall over, and I get too comfortable with myself, playing for that big punch, when I should be playing to damage, and then eventually hit that big punch.
Would you say you're a counter striker and you're waiting, and if you are, how difficult is it to change your style in that kind of way much later in your career, because you've had a lot of fights already?
Yeah, I am a counter striker, but I also walk forwards quite a bit. So it's really just throwing more. Too often I'll walk forwards trying to get him to throw, and I won't start it. So even if I can do something simple, like just get my jab going, I've got a real good jab. I just need to be more comfortable using it.
Now, you fought at middleweight for a long time. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to be your third fight at light heavyweight, right?
Third fight recently at light heavyweight.
Oh, when did you do it before?
I think the first 12 or 13 fights in my career were all 205. I dropped down. What was that? And
by career, you mean before you got to the UFC, and then in the UFC you were middleweight, or in the UFC you were light heavyweight?
In the UFC I was just middleweight. This was before getting to the UFC. I was light heavyweight. But even then I was small. I wasn't as big as I am now. I wasn't as big as strong as I am now. So now I'm bigger. I feel comfortable there. I was a big middleweight. I'm a medium-sized light heavyweight, and I'm really feeling pretty comfortable.
Is it a type of thing that do you prefer to just, and that seems to be the trend a lot of with the problem with weight cuts and weight cutting in general, just extremely difficult and taxing on the body. Do you just like to be near your walk around? What are you walking around now at light heavyweight, and how much are you cutting, say, compared to at middleweight?
Well, I'm about the same weight as I was at middleweight. At middleweight, I'd get up to about 225. Now at light heavyweight, I'm at about 225 also. I don't have to diet quite as much. I still have a pretty strict menu. I just get to eat a little bit more now.
So it's simply just feeling and eating it, because there's some people that may go up and maybe they'll add a little weight or put on extra muscle. It's not about that for you. It's just did you feel the cutting to middleweight because you got up to 220? It was hurting your effectiveness in the cage?
No, I felt just as good at 85 as I do at 205. It's just kind of an easier lifestyle. Pat Barry told me a happy fighter's a good fighter, and I'm far happier here at 205. I'm willing to go back down to 85 if the UFC wants me to, but I don't have to. I feel I'm doing pretty well at 205 so far, and I think I'm gonna keep going strong there.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about if you would go back. So is it simple? Is it would you consider yourself, as some people have done, like a money weight fighter, like you fight at either or wherever the best fight and the best money's at?
Yeah, honestly, wherever the UFC wants me, I'm happy to go. As long as they don't have me fighting Francis Ngannou, I'm good to go up to heavyweight.
You don't want to fight? He seems to be a little different these days. It might be a good fight.
It might be, but it also might kill me. And I'm not willing to risk it.
Now, I just want to clarify some like info Sherdog has on your fighter page. Now, are you from Wisconsin and you train with Team Quest still, or have things changed? Like you told me you're in California now, but is it still with Team Quest or is it with a different team?
Nope, I'm with Team Quest. I grew up, born and raised in Wisconsin. For the first 4 years of my career, I trained in Wisconsin, and then I moved out to California to work with Dan Henderson and Team Quest. So I've been out here. It'll be 7 years I've been in California here in about a month, and I'm I miss Wisconsin, but I love the people and what I've accomplished out here.
Is that how you've become acquainted with Joe Stevenson? Because I know he does some coaching there at Team Quest. Is he one of the people that coach you there, or are you just friendly with him by him doing some training from time to time?
We've always been buddy because I get to travel around a little bit, but he now is the head jiu-jitsu coach at our gym. This will be my first fight that he's going to be in my corner. He's one of my lead coaches.
Yeah, I did an article about maybe 3 weeks ago just about his transition to coaching, and I talked to Tom Galicchio about it. Like, do you feel he's helped improve your game on any level in a short time, or just it's too short a time to really tell a difference yet?
It's still too short a time, but just seeing how good he is and what he sees, I can tell it's going to be a great transition, he and I working together. And I'm really looking forward to becoming better at what he's good at and developing as a fighter with a little bit different look on things.
Now, you fought Rashad Evans in his second to last fight, but it was in the midst of a five-fight losing streak. Now, you are about to fight Lil Nog, who went 1-3 in his last 4. He hasn't fought nearly in 2 years, partially because of a suspension issue, getting that worked on. And he's also 42. Both are legends in the sport. But does fighting them at this particular point in their career, when they're on the downturn, does it take some of the motivation and joy a little bit out of it? Or are you still just as excited because you're fighting someone of Lil Nog's like resume and name value?
Oh, I don't think it takes anything away from it. I've been saying I'm on the vengeance tour. Everyone that's ever beaten my coach, Dan Henderson, I'm taking them off one at a time. And if you've been good enough at any point in your career to beat Hendo, you're going to be a threat the rest of your life. So I'm not taking it lightly. I'm looking forward to being able to share a cage with a guy who's done more for this sport than I ever will. And I'm going to go in there with the intent to getting my hand raised and just have the honor of sharing the octagon with him for 15 minutes, hopefully less.
In preparation, I'm not sure how much video you watch. Is it tough when someone is in that advanced age that they haven't fought in a few years? Is it tough to look back at their last few fights? Because, I mean, you can tell me as a fighter, you have the expert knowledge. I don't. Can you get a little better in that time away from the cage or not?
Yeah, I think so. Once you're an old dog, once you've got, a million fights, it's hard to change what you're going to do, but you can always make it better. You can always add little tools. And when I'm watching film on him or he's watching film on me, I'm sure he's going way back. I mean, fights I've had years ago that probably won't matter too much, but they do just because you see the little tendencies. So I love watching a lot of footage. And he's such an entertaining fighter. It's been a great camp. Being able to watch his fights, and it's just picking up little things, trying to make little tweaks to get that edge.
So even if to make yourself as best prepared as possible, even if he can't reach Lil Nog pride level, you're going to prepare for Lil Nog pride level.
Yeah, I'm preparing for the guy that beat my coach, and I'm putting in. I mean, every day I wake up, I go to work out, and I do that all day long. I am not sleeping on him one bit, and especially a guy who's been out of the cage for about 2 years now. He's going to be hungry. He's going to want that win. He's going to want to make a little bit of a statement to get back in that top 10.
Now, you'll be fighting in Sao Paulo, Brazil. When do you plan to make the trip to Brazil, and how does international bouts affect your preparation that last week or so, going into a bout? I'm not sure if you fought many times internationally or if this is the first time yet.
No, I've most of my career has been traveling international. Before getting to the UFC, I never made any money fighting, so I just liked fighting in places. So I'd get a free trip there. My wife's always been in my corner, and she and I we'd get to go to Australia or get to go to New Zealand or Mexico or Canada or Europe. We just got to travel a lot, Trinidad. And so I've gotten used to it. Now that I'm making some decent money, making a real career for myself, I still love traveling. So I fought in Brazil once before. I think the time difference is either 4 or 5 hours, but I fight way late at night. So it all kind of lines up where I at least the last time I was there, I was real comfortable. I plan on getting there about a week before the fight, and then just kind of goofing around all week, seeing the city, enjoying myself, and then just hopping off the trip with a good fight.
Now, all of his losses have been via finishers. You excel in. He's only lost by TKO, KOs, or decisions. The majority of your wins are by those two ways. Basically, is the strategy just to have active footwork and just out kickbox him? And do you feel that that's what your strategy will be?
I don't like saying strategy so much because the best laid plans. It never happens that way. I know I'm training that wherever it goes, I will be able to excel. I will be able to finish him. I'm not dedicated to knocking him out. If I get a submission, that'd be fantastic. If I cut him, that'd be fantastic. By whatever means necessary, I want to finish this fight. I'm a finisher. I've always been a finisher, and this is another time I want to get that finish.
Now you are heading into your 16th fight with the promotion and completing your fourth year as a UFC fighter. How have you changed as a fighter in that time period, and how would you say the company has changed in that 4-year time period?
It's actually funny. Today is the exact 4-year anniversary of my debut in the UFC against Tom Watson 4 years ago exactly today. So that's kind of cool. You know what? I've changed. My style has changed a little bit. I'm getting more and more Dan Henderson-y. I'm more comfortable everywhere, and more people want to work with me, which is always fun. The more wins, the more notoriety I get, the more people want to train with me, and that's a blast. Just getting to get more respect in the sport. But the UFC, they've just gotten better. They're like a fine wine. They keep getting stronger, putting on better shows, and I love my career with them.
Now, you say a lot of people want to work with you. No doubt it's because of what the success you had in the sport, but is part of the appeal for people the smile?
I'm sure it is. It surprises me at how noticed I get anytime I go to a fight or anything. I stick out, and it's the funniest thing because I never did before. It's probably the red hair, and I'm a pretty happy dude. People just like seeing me. The UFC actually has a rule now. They call it the Alvey rule, the smile and same rule. After a fight, I always walk the arena. I always try and just get pictures with people. I love this sport. I love that they came out to watch me, and I'm going to go stand in a line goes, and we're not allowed to do that anymore because I'd go out there and would get a line 200 people long just trying to get a picture. And me, I would do it every fight. I love that feeling. But the UFC, it's a security risk or something. So now if I do it, I have to leave the arena and come back in as if I had paid for a ticket.
What? What does that matter?
They give me. They'll give me a ticket, but I can't be under the. Once I leave the arena, I'm not the UFC's responsibility anymore. So it's fun. I love what I do. I love smiling when I do it.
Now, next, last question. Just about the division in general. Well, actually, going back to your former division, since I'm curious, you spent a lot of time there. What are your thoughts on like a fight like Whittaker and Gastelum? How do you think that will play out, and do you favor one guy over the other?
Gastelum, I underrate him all the time. I never think he's going to do as well as he does, and then he crushes people. So I probably stick with Whittaker on it. I'll probably still stick against a Gastelum, but I'll probably be wrong again, especially if it's the main event. I'm batting 1,000 picking the wrong main event.
Now, speaking of the titles, talk about your new division. What do you feel about the situation the division is in that you have the reigning champion who's defended the title multiple times, but he's a two-division champion. What do you think? Does he need to come back and defend his division title at light heavyweight? What's your opinion on you find with him doing whatever it is that gets him the most money and the most notoriety before he leaves? What's your thoughts on the situation at light heavyweight?
Power to him. He should do whatever he wants to do. He's an Olympian medalist. He's now a two-division champion. He's fought the best in the world, beaten the best in the world, and the only guy he's ever lost to is a cheater. So, I mean, he can fight whoever he wants to fight whenever he wants to. I don't suspect we'll see him at 205 again, because why would you? I mean, that weight cut's a killer, especially for someone like him who has a lot of weight to cut to get down to 205. So he can go wherever he wants to go. And I kind of hope he doesn't come back to 205 because he was really he's outside of him, it's wide open. I mean, there's not a close second in our division. And so if he disappears, our division gets really, really exciting because anyone in the top 15 could have that title.
Now, I have to ask, I've already told you my interest, Broken Skull Challenge. Like, how did that even, how did you get called for that? How did you get contacted for that? Like, how did that all come together? Because I got into the show, I'm watching all the episodes at one time, I'm like, wait a minute. That's Sam Alvey. I'm telling my girlfriend, that's a UFC fight. How did he even get on here? How did that happen?
Every time I go to fight week, I've got a week and I do very little. I don't do much during my fight week. I just kind of watch the Food Channel, and I love it. And the other thing I do, so I watch the Food Channel, I go and I apply to TV shows, and I've been on a few of them now. And the Broken Skull, they got back to me. And pretty much all I do when I apply is I just say, I'm on TV. I'm in the UFC. I'm ranked number 15. I'm ranked number 11. And they got back to me. And they offered me a spot, and I saw it was, like I said, it was 2 days after I fought Kevin Casey. I said, all right, I'll do it. Assuming I win and I'm not too beat up, I'll get in there. So we went from, it was a trip and a half. So we fought Kevin Casey on Saturday up in Vancouver. Sunday, I flew back to Wisconsin, dropped my family off in Wisconsin, and then later Sunday, I flew from Wisconsin to L.A. For the Broken Skull Challenge. Got off a plane on Monday in L.A. and then did this first day of the Broken Skull. I broke my toe in the fight, my big toe. That toe still doesn't work to this day, and dislocated a thumb in the fight. And I did pretty well still. I got to the final obstacle course. And, I fell off the thing, and that was all. That hurt so bad. My foot just kicked out, and I couldn't get up the rope. Oh, I was so embarrassed. I couldn't grab it anymore. And if you saw, I wasn't using my feet to climb it. My foot hurt so much. If you're climbing a rope, you usually use your feet, and I couldn't do it. It hurt too much. And so I couldn't get to the top of the rope. It was heartbreaking, but it was a lot of fun. If ever they invite me back for a best of episode, I'll be there.
I mean, and for, that, in my opinion, MMA fighters are the best athletes in the game. Just what they do, all the training they have to go through, the best athletes in any sport. So to do that, it shows you that the obstacle course is super hard. Like, how difficult, one, was the regular events in general, and then the Skullbuster at the end, which is insanely intense.
The typical challenges, the first 3 events where you compete in the one-on-one, those weren't so bad. Especially with me. I mean, my first one is I had to wrestle a guy. Like, well, that could have asked for an easier one. The second one, I had to pull a truck, which again, I was not difficult. And then the third one was we had to flip a box. And that third one, I was fighting the biggest dude I think I'd ever seen. When we were signing up for the show, they asked us what our weight was, and being a fighter, my weight varies so much. He said, I really don't know. And he said, well, what do you think? He said, 220 maybe. And then the fight happened, so I was really closer to about 200 come filming. So I was way smaller than the guy. But I flipped the box faster, and then it was a wrestling match again, as we had to push the guy out of the ring. And it was back to MMA. But then we get to that Skullbuster challenge, and that was they took us up and they walked me through the course. I thought, oh, this is gonna be rough, but I can do it. And then they introduced me to their reigning champion.
Oh, was it that guy, the blonde guy? Was he the champion then?
He's probably the still champion.
Yeah,
he's just amazing.
Yeah.
And they told me what his time was, and it was like 6.5 minutes. And I mean, right then I said, well, shoot, there's not a chance on earth I'm doing this in 6.5 minutes. Yeah. So in my head, I went from I'm going to win to I'm just going to complete it. I'm just going to finish it, and it'll be fine. And it was far more difficult than I thought. And they make it seem like it's in Texas, but it was in the high desert here in California. It was 114 degrees outside, and it was just a desert. It was the light jog at the beginning just dries out your mouth. Then one of the obstacles is you have to just dive underwater and get out. Isn't hard at all, but it makes the next one is you have to run up that hill. And
that hill's insane.
You're running up that hill. Yeah, and what was worse is you're soaking wet when you start doing it. So everything's sticking to your feet and your hands and that was the hardest part.
And what was final question? What was like meeting Steve Austin?
Oh, he's great. I was a big Steve Austin fan, and we didn't get to hang out with him much, but the little bit we got to see him in between shoots during the set is he's loud, loud and proud.